I've got a new guitar. This should be an Affinity Telecaster. I have previously had a Bullet Telecaster and I wasn't too impressed. But I've got a Player Telecaster and that's very impressive. I'm going to see how this compares. It looks quite good. I've got a little personal message. Invoice, £179. Oh, it's full thickness. Feels quite light. It's a really nice weight, actually. Thank you very much for your purchase. Sorry again we didn't have the Laurel fingerboard. Included free strings and strap for any inconvenience caused. Well, I'm going to have a look at those. I bought this from a guitar company in Scotland I've never heard of, called Jimmy Egypt or something. And the reason I ordered it from them was this was supposed to have a Laurel fretboard, and it's the only black Telecaster with a Laurel fretboard Affinity Telecaster on the planet that I was able to track down. And then they messaged me after I bought it and they said they've only got maple. It's made in China. It looks really nice. I'm just going to measure the body, make sure it's full thickness. What I didn't like about the Bullets is that they aren't full thickness. 45mm. It's really thick. I believe 44mm is full thickness. 44.7. 44.7. 44.3. Yeah, that's a full thickness Telecaster. So the white one is a Player series made in Mexico. This black one is an Affinity Telecaster made in China. And the reason I've bought this is because I'm going to modify the hell out of it, which should be exciting. So let's see. The knobs feel nice. Right, some things that I'm aware of on Telecasters, not on this one by the looks of things, sometimes the neck pocket isn't aligned, which means the neck isn't straight or the bridge isn't in place, which means one of the strings runs off the side of the neck. And with a Strat, you can loosen the screws a bit, or even not loosen them to be honest, and push the neck across. And on Telecasters, it's got a square neck pocket, so you can't always do that. If anything, this string's a bit close to the edge, but it's really not. I mean, that's pretty much centered. I'm more worried about the little string being off the edge, which is normally the way it is. I've got a video on how to repair that. Not really an easy fix if I'm being honest. This one doesn't have that problem. This looks really nice. Like really, really nice. There's no problems with the finish that I can find, but I'm going to point out a few things where there can be problems. Sometimes the through body strings, not all Affinities come with this. I specifically wanted one that did come with it, and after the initial mix up of not being able to have a Laurel neck, I kind of thought the one I'd ordered may not have this, even though the picture showed it. I thought they don't know what they're doing. This has through body strings, I really like that. And sometimes the spacing of these isn't quite right. This looks fine. Sometimes they're all over the place. This looks great. Another reason I chose this Telecaster, rather than getting a classic vibe, which I think I've heard are slightly better, I like this style of bridge. So it's the flat plate rather than the ashtray with 6 individual saddles. I think they're far easier to intonate than the 3 T-shaped ones. I know you can twist them and stuff, but I don't want to go through all that. I just want to be able to restring it without any grief. You can adjust anything, it's really easy. These are my favourite type of saddles. That pickup looks really underwound, which I have. There must be like no copper on that. I'll do a close-up on this, but there's about... The bobbin is the plastic part of the pickup, and then they wind copper around it, and the copper doesn't have to go to the edge because that would be a really hot pickup, but there really isn't much copper on that at all. But we'll see if it sounds good in a minute. The Bullet Squier, that I don't even know where it is, those pickups are really underwound. They sounded great. They don't have to have loads of winds on them to sound great. It's just, I quite like a hot pickup because I play humbuckers a lot, and if I go between guitars and one's really quiet, it's a pain, especially in the studio. I don't really like it, so I quite like a hotter single coil. I'm just going to take all this stuff off. This has a 3-ply scratch plate, white, black, white. I will change it for black, white, black, just because I prefer black scratch plates. But I always go for 3-ply scratch plates. I personally think they look better. So I will change this. However, that's a really nice touch. This is a really, really good guitar. Like, genuinely. And there's a few things, I'm going to modify the hell out of this, so we'll see all the videos on that. I'm also going to do a video where I blindfold my mate, and we're going to compare the Affinity to the Fender, see if he can tell the difference. However, what I'm going to do on that is, I'm going to respray the headstock and put a Fender decal on it, so even when he takes the blindfold off, he's not going to know. He's just going to think, oh, you've got a black one and a white one, and I'll make up some ludicrous story as to why I've got two identical guitars. Unless he reads the back, which says, designed and backed by Fender, crafted in China. Seriously impressed with this. Sometimes with these cheaper Squiers, the neck has such a thin lacquer on, the maple can look almost white. This doesn't have that. The Squier Bullet over there, it's really sort of anemic looking. It feels really nice, don't get me wrong, it feels fantastic, but it doesn't look that great. This has got a bit more lacquer on it than normally comes on, well, the Bullets definitely. And I've ordered a can of amber nitrocellulose to make the really light maple I was expecting darker, and looking at this, I'm not going to have to bother, which is great. So the colour of this neck is, honestly, I'm really impressed with this. I think it's great. Full thickness guitar, through body strings, the neck's aligned properly. That means everything about the guitar is great. The tuners generally aren't that bad. Is it in tune? Perfectly in tune. The tuners don't feel too bad. I am going to put 10s in it. I'll let you know if it's any good. I'll do a more in-depth video when I've had it a bit longer, because I like to do one video, first impressions, what do I think, another video in a couple of weeks when I've got used to it, and then you can see what the difference is, because sometimes something is really impressive out of the box, and then a little while later you think, actually no. This is seriously impressive. It's got one of these jack sockets. Not my favourite. On a telly, I like the, I don't even know what it's called, but this is what I fit. If I make tellies, I put those on. But it's not the end of the world, I suppose. A little bit upset about that. Anyway, modification wise, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it into an Esquire, so sack off the neck pickup, put a Seymour Duncan 1/4 pounder or a 1/4 pound in the bridge. It's a tapped one, so I can have it full power or half power. I'm going to do Esquire wiring, but with a mod to make it sound like a cocked wah in one of the positions. There'll be videos and all of this. Black 3-ply scratch plate. I was going to re-lacquer the neck. I might cancel that order, to be honest, because I don't need to bother. I am going to respray the headstock. I'm going to spray it black, so it matches the body. I'm going to put a Fender decal on and trick my mate. The only other thing I don't like about this string tree, or string tee, I don't know what it's called, just as like a bit of bent metal, I'll put a proper Fender one on. I can't remember if that came with the kind I like, but I would have changed it. One final thing. This, my nemesis on a Telecaster. When you put the pickup in the bridge position, there is literally no gap between that and the knob. I've got a plate on order. I'll put a link in the description where this knob's further over so you can put your finger in the gap. Just because if you're adjusting stuff, you're knocking it all over the place. And with that a bit further over, a lot easier. Right, how does this sound? Let's tune it. Okay, I've just had a little play around. The intonation on this big E string is not a mile off, but it's really not that good. The frets on Squiers, they're not really scratchy. I've had it a lot worse on other Squiers, so the Bullets it's worse. And I've got a video on how to use fret rubbers, probably the easiest way, easier than using sandpaper. So when I change the strings, I'll do a quick bit of fret work just because they're a little bit scratchy. Also, it buzzes in a couple of places, not awfully, but I will do a setup because it's not great. But all of the strings seem acceptable, apart from this low E, which just seems dead at fret 12. So why does it sound so muffled? I'm not really sure what's going on there, but that's annoying, so I will have to sort that out. But for £179, so 180 quid, a setup costs, I genuinely don't know how much one costs, but I imagine about 60 quid. No sharp frets. The scratchiness does wear off, so just play your guitar, you don't need to get that sorted. it's probably worth paying for a setup. So a setup is 50 quid, 60 quid, so it's 70 quid. That means for 250 quid, for 250 quid, that's an amazing guitar. Really, really amazing. I would recommend changing that plate so the knob's further over. Then it's a masterpiece, and the scratch plate. So that's nearly 300 quid, which is the price of a classic Vibe, nearly. However, I haven't played one of those yet. But this has features on it that I prefer over the classic Vibe, which is why I bought this, not that. I don't like the switch tip. I think that looks terrible. And I know it's a bit traditional, but I mean, that switch is about 5 miles from the body. Not the end of the world. This is what the neck pickup sounds like. So it feels weird to play, and I think it's because some of these saddles are too low. I mean, it sort of goes up and down like the C, so it just feels very strange. I will sort that. It's a 2-minute job. It's going to have the Allen keys in the bag, so I'll be able to adjust it. But anyway, middle position. Now that sounds alright, and I like playing that because it's sort of open notes all over the neck, so you can really hear intonation issues, and it doesn't really stand out. But like I said, I don't really use the low E in that, so, and that's the string with intonation is the furthest out. Right, bridge pickup. Sounds really good in bridge position. In fact, it sounds really good on every position. It's a really good guitar. It literally just needs a setup and get rid of all this stupid plastic. Yeah, I definitely made the right choice there. So, the Squier Affinity Telecaster. 180 quid. I went for the black flavour one. Neck finish is really nice, no sharp frets, the neck's nicely aligned. Sometimes you have a problem there. It's only got 21 frets, I prefer 22, but 22 only really comes on the Player series and the American series. Ashtray, it's not an ashtray style bridge, it's the kind of flat ones. It's not an ashtray style bridge, it's the flat ones, which I prefer. 6 individual saddles, makes it a lot easier to set up, so I'm going to intonate this in a second and just raise the A string saddle up, because they must have been drunk when they did that one. That switch tip looks ridiculous, but I'll probably get over it. The tuners feel nice. Realistically, all you'd need to change on this is give it a setup. That's it. The frets aren't even that scratchy. Often with Squiers they're really scratchy, but this is lovely. It's seriously impressive. And I love how they've gone back to full thickness bodies. They did thinner ones for a while, and I hate the thin ones. Which is weird because I love my Gibson SG and that's like a centimetre thick, it's tiny. But on a Fender style guitar, like a Squier, it feels weird if it's not full thickness. Like the bullets, they're thinner, and I think it's worth paying an extra, I don't know, 30, 40 quid just for that. I'm really impressed with that. Really, really impressed. And it looks fantastic. Imagine that with a black scratch plate. Right, there will be videos on this where I do all the modifications, turn it into an Esquire, so I'll show you how to do Esquire wiring. I'll put links to all the parts that I'm going to use in the description, so the black scratch plate, the control plate where this knob is further down. I'll do a video in a couple of weeks of how I'm getting on with this in case it's awful or something. I'll do a video on how to redo a decal on the headstock. I'll do a video on comparing the Fender version, the Fender Player, to the Affinity. It'll be a blindfold thing with my mate, see if you can tell the difference. It feels really nice. I don't know what shape neck carve it is. It feels like quite a chunky neck for a Fender, but if you're on the fence about getting one, just get one. Seriously. It should just say Fender on the headstock. Just because it's made in China, that's the only reason they're saying it's not a Fender. All the strings are perfectly aligned over the pickup holes as well, which may sound stupid, but sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're miles off, so the sound's not going to be picked up as well. Thank you for watching.